Welcome to SEL in EDU.
where we discuss all things social and emotional in education.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Craig, and we are your host on this journey.
This podcast is created in partnership with Pennsylvania ASCD.
All right, good day, SEL and EDU family. We are excited to join you again. Hopefully, you are keeping yourself warm and well in all of your spirit, because it's winter at this point when you hear it. And I'm focusing on this wonderful plant, Krista, that's sitting in my space that is green and blossoming. So, spring is close. How are you holding up these days?
Um, it's same, I think. It's been a whirlwind. I will be honest, my brain is like firing on all cylinders and I have all these ideas and putting them into practice and trying to make connections, but my body is not keeping up with myself. I need more hours in a day. And then I look at these amazing people who have the same number of hours that I do, and I'm like, what am I missing? So
Yeah, I get it. We do find ourselves at times looking to the next person or looking at the scroll, and you're like, wow, I didn't see this person post these three things, and they're doing events and talks and writing books, and I'm like, do you sleep? I don't think that I don't think that we're really who we are. I don't know. Maybe we're avatars. Maybe people got clones, and we haven't really talked about it much.
Okay. So I have to say though, if you have never seen the movie The Prestige with Christian Bale, and that is one of my absolute favorite movies, and Hugh Jackman, and Michael Caine.
Yes.
I don't want to give away, but have you seen it?
It's probably been something that I need to revisit again. I'm sure.
Yes, but I'll just drop that there. And I saw our guest kind of was like, "No, I don't think I've seen that yet." So put that on your list. And so I'd love to have you introduce our special guest for today.
Yes. So we have Miss Jessica Holloway, who is a friend to us both, who is an innovation coach for Hamilton County Schools in Tennessee. Another Southerner. I get a shimmy. Jessica is a 2019 ASCD Emerging Leader, is on the ASCD Emerging Leader Board, is also a Tennessee ASCD board member. She has taught middle school language arts and was a school-based instructional coach. And I hear that she's got a book coming out soon. I'm so excited. How are you doing, Jessica Holloway? Yeah.
I am keeping up with all of the things. And Krista, what she said earlier rang very true of thinking about how many hours you have in a day and how much you can get done. And, there's a lot to manage with your time, but I am excited about all the things that are in the works. And, it's great to be around educators like the two of you who get to have conversations about the things that are happening and keep the ideas going.
Yeah. So I'm curious, before we started our podcast today, just, checking in with each other. I know that you had shared a little bit about some of the things buzzing about in your community and just with educators. I know it's a tough time for so many educators, so many school leaders for a variety of reasons. But before we start talking about, the other educators that you serve with in the great trenches and the wonderful work that you do, how are you holding up? How's your heart? And how are you taking care of yourself in the midst of all of this?
So for me personally, it is time with my family that really refuels me. And I have 3 boys. I'm a boy mom, fully true. It's a boy household. And my husband is very supportive of all the work. But it is good to just take time and pause from all of the work and refocus time and energy with my family. And we go out and we do things together. And sometimes it's just slowing down and having a meal together and talking to each other, because my kids are different ages and busy, and my husband and I both work full-time jobs. So sometimes it's like we're passing each other a lot. And so it's always great when we can just slow down and really just talk to each other and do something together as a family. So that's how I stay refueled in all of the things that are going on in the work world.
Thank you.
A friend of mine, Sheila Kennedy, calls being present in those moments savoring, and really thinking about being present. And when my kids were little, I used to try to like multitask. And I realized that what worked best is if I gave them my full attention for time. And then I kind of directed them to some individual play or play with them like together where they didn't need me as much. So I could kind of focus on some of the work pieces. So instead of trying to do both at the same time, really savoring those moments, like you said. And now that they're older, I look back and there's some days and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to that day. Like I was thinking about a time when I had a chance to take them to Disney because a former student was working there and she gifted us passes for the day. And I was like in tears because I was not going to be able to do that on my own as a single mom. And I think about those times when I was a single mom and like, I know you're very passionate about self-talk and keeping ourselves uplifted and spirited. And there were lots of days when I'm like, I'm a crap mom. Like I didn't spend the time with them. And so knowing your passion around negative self-talk, can you share with us some of what led you to be passionate about that topic and maybe some things that work for you in those moments?
Yeah. So I think my passion comes from, I'm about 10 years into coaching. And when you're working with others, especially adults, you find that it's real easy to lean into negative. Like if you talk to someone, if you go up and ask somebody, how was your day? How'd your day go? More than likely, they're going to give you all the things that went wrong. And then at the very end, as almost an afterthought, they might include something that went well. And so for me in the coaching role, oftentimes I would walk into a planning session or debrief about a classroom observation or just any kind of conversation. And I would open up to tell me what you're thinking. And it almost always went to something negative. And so I just noticed over time how easily we just get into this negative self-talk. And, it's good to have a critic to keep you in line. So you become aware of yourself and reflect. But sometimes we let that critic get a little bit cruel and it overrides anything that we might point out about our own positive. And so I've noticed some things that have come up. Like if somebody makes a mistake, it's almost like they're like, I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. I can't believe I made that mistake. And instead it's like, just say, oopsie, I made a mistake. I'm going to fix it and realize everyone makes a mistake. It's not, it's the mistake itself is separate from you as who you are. So yeah, it was a mistake, but you're allowed to make mistakes. Yeah. And then sometimes if educators don't get the results that they want, they're like, I'm not good enough. What am I doing here? Who let me get a teaching license? It goes into this, who allowed me to be in a classroom of students? And so, but it's okay if you're not supposed to, you don't get the bullseye every single time. Take a spin and just look and say, okay, what is it that did work and what's not working? And let's figure out a plan instead of just, I'm not good enough, instead of separating the results were from these actions, instead of personalizing it. And then there's some with lack of experience, or if they're new to a content area or grade level, they're like, oh, well, I'm just not a math person, or I'm just not an art person. I can't tell you how many times, and, we try to cultivate this positive identity in students, but oftentimes as adults, we don't model having that positive self-identity because I hear all the time, well, I'm just not a math person. Or if we just say sketch out something, they're like, I'm going to try, but I'm not an art person. And so they automatically just categorize themselves all or nothing. Either I'm an expert or I'm not this kind of person at all. It's extremes in the thinking. And then sometimes when we just get really overwhelmed, and I'm going to call out guilty here because I've done it, where it's just like, I should just quit. I'm reconsidering all of my life choices. What am I doing right now? What is happening? And it's just, that's like meltdown mode when you've completely gone so negative that you're just like, want to just stop doing everything and start over.
This is it's fairly spot on because I just released one of my blog entries that talks about failing forward, and it's when it really resonates because there's a lot of reframing that one has to do, and in this environment that we're in, we don't give ourselves permission to pause. We find ourselves in the throes of everything. We got to make sure we're current. We got to make sure we're making sure that we work the 2 or 3 or 4 jobs and opportunities to make sure we can keep, lights on and food in people's belly and all of those things. And then where do we really have the opportunity to invest in ourselves? And so the littlest things that don't surface as a success or as something that leads to a greater outcome, whether it's personal or whether or not it is professional for the young people we serve, I hear you about those messages. But it's really taking someone like you who helps people to reframe their thinking. So I think about Dr. Basil Morin, who talks about the power of yet, right? So your kids might not have gotten that lesson in the way you hope yet, right? I might not have picked up, and lifted. We talked about like Craig Shapiro, like lifting like 300, 400 pounds, like he's tossing Volkswagens around, right? And I'm like, well, could I do that too? Soon, possible, yet, right? Like there's an opportunity here. But in this culture that we're in, we find ourselves trying to compete and trying to see these really great and fascinating things happen and don't allow ourselves to be imperfectly perfect. Who you are was called. Who you are is amazing. And you are a beautiful human being because you're spending time with really interesting little souls who running around here with their own minds, bodies, and spirit, and you're committed to their well-being. So sometimes we just gotta breathe and pause. Sometimes you got to get your candles going and breathe in some new air. Sometimes you got to get some sage and burn some things out because you got to cleanse some spaces. Sometimes you just need a plant. And you say, you know what? I'm going to spend 10 seconds looking at that plant and taking that oxygen in because it's going to be all right. Tomorrow is another opportunity to be better. So some of the things I'm thinking about.
If I can add in too, what really stuck is that I have negative self-talk as well. I don't give myself the grace when I think I've messed up or I should have known better. And I think it's interesting because I would never talk to other people the way that I internally talk to myself. And I would interrupt somebody else who is doing that, but not when it's happening for me, when I'm doing that. And in relationship to social emotional learning, I've been thinking a lot about like our thoughts and our feelings, and like we get these emotions and it turns into feelings and then goes to our thoughts and our thoughts start spiraling. But it goes the opposite way too. And I've been learning like the cognitive behavior therapy that when you change your thought process, it changes your feelings and changes your emotions. And so when we can change our self-talk, it can change the way we feel. And you wrote, Jessica, an article with a group of educators called Promoting Educator Wellbeing, What is a District to Do, that was in ASCD. And there was a part here that said, we're often told to give ourselves grace without tangible strategies for how to do so. So when you're working with a teacher who is in that spiral, or you're in that spiral, what have you found has worked to be able to separate out, as you said, like the action from the person?
So in coaching, I'm provided a unique opportunity to stop it as it's happening. Because as you said, a lot of times you'll hear someone saying it and you see where they're going with it. So a lot of times I interrupt them like, let's pause there and think about what you're going to say and what you're saying right now, because what you're saying is about you, but really what we're talking about is this over here. So we're talking about your lesson. How did it go? We're talking about the results that you got. We're not talking about you as an individual human being. And so a lot of times it's framing imperfections as opportunities. And so, okay, this lesson didn't go how you wanted it to go. Okay, what can we do next? What is a different way we can approach this? In every situation, and I try to tell them, even good experiences or bad experiences provide you feedback. So if it didn't go the way you wanted to go, that's feedback for you that, okay, this strategy is not the right one for this lesson or this content, or maybe your group of students that you have, this isn't hitting or resonating with them. So let's try something else. And it's really hard to get them to pause because for them, the work is personal. And I remember being a classroom teacher, it was personal for me. I wanted to be the best teacher for those students in my classroom, and I wanted them to be successful. And when I didn't feel like they were being successful, I didn't feel successful either. But I had to realize it wasn't me personally. It was the lesson, the plan, the strategy. It was that one thing. It wasn't me as a whole. So separating individual successes or misses instead of overgeneralizing it into, I had a bad lesson, I'm a bad teacher, what am I doing in this profession, and just keep going. Because the more we do this negative self-talk, we start convincing ourselves it's the truth. So the more you hear it, it starts getting ingrained. And I know there was, I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 to 1 positive to negative ratio. So you have to tell yourself, or you have to be reminded, so many positives to kind of outweigh the one negative. And so we've got to start shifting from this deficit negative self-talk to the good and the positives of just, I think, reframing the negatives into opportunities, and just not just opportunities, but negatives into new actions that we can do to help address whatever that negative is that they're dealing with.
I was taking a quick peek at the Wellness Wednesdays. It's a Wellness Wednesday wholeness initiative that you are part of, or maybe you're founder of. Could you talk a little bit more about how that came about, and what's going on with that? I'm curious. It's a Wednesday as we're recording, so I'm like, what could I be getting involved in with Jessica Holloway on Wellness Wednesday?
So I will say, Emerging Leader 2022, Erin Kirby is the pioneer, and I would say the founder of this Wellness Wednesday program in Hamilton County. And she had a team that helped work on this as well. And I was privileged to be part of that team and continue to support the work in that. It really originated during COVID, when we were all trying to navigate this new era that we were working through. And with that, the realization came up in our district that we needed to tend to teacher wellness as well. And Erin works in our HR department as, I can't remember her exact title. I'll have to go look it up. But she works with onboarding new teachers and wellness and induction in our district. So she really supports them as teachers as they come into our district, but then also supporting teachers. All teachers in our district think about their well-being. So originally it was every Wednesday, activities were put out, articles were put out. We had a mindfulness consultant that would do some sessions, and any teacher was able to join. In those sessions, they talked a lot about reframing expectations, how to regulate emotions, So there were strategies given through those sessions, and those are still continuing, not weekly, but I believe bi-weekly they're continuing for teachers to sign up and participate in. And then we would do mindful minutes where we just give them a little nugget of wellness strategies or information, just to remind them it doesn't have to be a whole session you come to. I remember one I did about humor and about the benefits of laughing and how that can contribute to our wellness. Another one that I contributed for that was adult coloring pages, and had those on there as just letting your mind kind of just pause and focus in on coloring. I don't know. I have my youngest child just turned 5. And so for me, I still color with him, and I just find myself very calm when I'm coloring. So I'm like, adults can color too. But it was a variety of ways of just getting educators to think about how they're taking care of themselves, because we wanted them to show up and be the best versions of themselves for their students and their teachers in their buildings. So it's continued, it's evolved year over year, but it is continuing in the district. And I very much appreciate the work that Erin and her team continues to do. And I really do think it is having an impact. I know several teachers will refer to, well, I was in this session and they talked about this. So it's definitely becoming more widespread, and it's that's the word I was looking for. They're internalizing what they're hearing. But I also noticed some of them are using it with their students too. So they're thinking, oh, this strategy works for me. Let's try it with the students as well.
Yeah. And so if you heard a bang of my chair going into something, I was reaching under my desk to pull out my coloring books as well. So we have that in common. Colors definitely affect my mood. And sometimes you just need something that for me, I'm in control of it. There's no right or wrong. You can make anything you want, any color. And that was what I would tell my kids growing up too. Like, you get to be in control. If you want to make the sky purple or green, you can do that. And so I think it's important to think about what works for us. It could be knitting. It's anything that is repetitive. While I was helping organize programming for an after school session for middle schoolers, we taught them how to make the friendship bracelets. And even that, we would start off every time they came in on a Monday, they knew there were different stations. They could go do word searches, or they could play with Play-Doh, or they could go make friendship bracelets, or they could color. And so that's how we started off everything with They Got a Choice. And I think making those part of our routine, like your Wellness Wednesday, it didn't need to be something that was every single day, but it became part of the culture that once a week, this is what we do. And I think that when people think about how are we taking care of ourselves, like, oh, when I'm like at the end of my rope and having a meltdown, like you were saying earlier, that's when we finally are like, we have to do something instead of keeping up with it all the way through.
Yeah. And one thing that I started in the midst of COVID and inspired by thinking about what brings me joy and what I wanted to do for my own wellness was, I'm a big reader. So if you see my social media handles, it's Holloway Reader. So that's how I first identify myself, is a very avid reader. And I wanted to provide time to slow down and read. And I don't know if you're familiar with Tanny McGregor. She's an educator in Ohio. She's written some books, and she does a lot of work with literacy. And she started she started Cincy Slow Read in Cincinnati. And she brought a group of friends together. They meet at this historic hotel. They sit and they read. And Tanny and I had worked together on some literacy initiatives. And so I follow her on Twitter, and I'd see it on Twitter. I'm like, Tanny, what is this amazing thing? I just want to drive to Cincinnati and be a part of this. But my husband says it's not very realistic for me to just drive, a couple hours to go read some books, but I might one day. So I was remembering what she was doing with her group in Cincinnati. And I thought, I want to have that here in Chattanooga. So I started Nooga Slow Read for educators that want to come together and read. So we did a lot in the beginning with Zoom meetings. We come in, and I didn't want to make a book club because book club often leads to pressure. So it's an open reading experience. We come in, we say hello. One rule is you don't talk about anything with work. That's one rule. We're not talking anything. It's just books we're talking about. So I just dedicate 30 to 45 minutes of just reading time, and you can choose to turn your camera off. You can leave your camera on. I usually, in the wintertime, I play a crackling fireplace in the background, or in the spring, it's a babbling brook to give us an environment. And we just read, and then we come back together. If it's a larger group, we'll get into breakout rooms, and we'll just talk about the books that we read. And then I send out a list afterwards of all the books everyone was reading in case you wanted to add them to your list. But it's just time to come together, read, and talk about books. And we've had a couple of pop-up in-person events as well, just trying to come together in real life, not just on the screen. So we continue that. And it's one of the things that I just look forward to, is just knowing I'm going to have a little bit of time where I can just read and then talk about books. And that brings me so much joy. And I look forward to the next one. So very much inspired by Tanny and her work with Cincy Slow Read, brought it to Chattanooga. And we did have a combined Cincy Nooga Slow Read virtually. So we got the Cincinnati group and the Chattanooga group together, and we read and talked about books 2 cities apart. And it was wonderful. But it's one of those, if the space isn't there, you can make your own space for it. And it doesn't have to be anything really big or grandiose. And sometimes there's 2 people that show up. Sometimes there's 12 people that show up. But it's just a space for you to come together and bring joy around reading.
I am so excited, and I'm like, how does one get to be part of this? Like, do we just find you on Twitter? How does one get connected to this?
So I don't put it out on Twitter because I am not sure who all is out there that would get a hold of that Zoom link. So I try to be a little cautious with who gets invited, but I do usually post it on Facebook. So that way familiar faces will be available to attend. And then I send it out to Hamilton County as well. And anybody that's around that wants to join are welcome to join. So I will make sure the next time we have a virtual Nooga Slow Read that the 2 of you get an invite. So you're welcome to pop in.
We can add a Philly Boston edition.
Hey. One of the great leaders who is just in our spirit here in Massachusetts is Liz Garten. And she's known for just holding some really great conversations and chats. Principal Garden, for those who are looking for her on Twitter, always has some really great reads. She focuses on a lot of children and YA books, but it's powerful. I wish I made more time to read other things other than blogs and New York Times and Boston Globe and things like that. So. Wow, thank you. I have this. We have this wonderful question that we love to ask, and would love to know, Jessica Holloway, what is your superpower?
I think my superpower is bringing out the best in others, and I think that comes back to just being in this coaching mindset that I really want people to feel successful, and I want them to know how amazing they are. And a lot of times, teachers and educators, principals, leaders, they just forget. They're so busy doing the work. Sometimes they get tunnel vision and don't stop and look around and really take note of all the small wins. And so I try to be the person that reminds them or points out all the small wins while they're working towards, their big win that they're working towards, and just reminding them of the amazing things that they're doing and helping them grow. And if this is what you want to be, how can I help you get there? So at least that's what I want my superpower to be. I'm working on it, and I'm still growing as a coach. So I take every opportunity to work with others. I treasure that because they're helping me grow as well and getting where I want to be. And And so with that, like, I was rewatching some Ted Lasso episodes. And if you've not watched Ted Lasso, it's definitely good. And he's a football coach or soccer coach, however you want to refer to it. I don't want to upset anybody if they want to call it football or soccer. But thinking about his mindset, and there was this dart scene, and he goes up against another person who challenges him right away. It's like, you'll get what you want. If you win, I'll get what I want. If I win, let's play darts. They get into the game, and very quickly, the other gentleman realizes that Ted Lasso can actually throw some darts with accuracy. And he ends up referring to a Walt Whitman quote, which is disputed if it's actually Walt. Anyway, the quote is, "Be curious, not judgmental." Mm-hmm. And I think that, especially as a coach, having that kind of mindset of be curious, not judgmental when you go in, will really help you stay on the positive when you're working with teachers. Like, ask the questions, like, seek first to understand what they're doing. Ask the questions, really try to want to understand what they're doing instead of making judgments about it. But I also say, do that to yourself. Mm-hmm. Be curious of, why are you doing that? Why did you make that decision? Instead of that negative person, like, why did you do that? No, like, try to understand yourself first instead of just judging yourself first. And I think that'll help us do that shift from that negative mindset into opportunities and growth, and being kinder to ourselves when we're going through this process.
Dang, that is my favorite scene from Ted Lasso. I love that quote, and I have not been able to I try to reflect on that. And I think what you shared was just so powerful. And it's reminding me of a text that I sent in a conversation to Craig in the last couple of days about unpacking the why of things, even in my own actions, and try to figure out, what made me think that or do that, and being curious. And that was, I think, the first time I've given myself that grace. And I love that you put that highlight on it. I think that it exudes from you, that love of wanting to lift other people up and help them become the best version of themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good leaders make more good leaders, and good coaches make more good coaches, and good teachers. I mean, you just want to kind of, I guess I want to leave a legacy of good learners and people who feel successful. I want to look back and say, I helped that person grow and achieve what they wanted to achieve. And I guess part of that is I have very much a collaboration over competition mindset. When they rise up, the whole profession rises up. If you're on my team and you're successful, our whole team rises up. So I'm rooting for everybody in the education field. I don't care if we're applying on the same job and we're wanting to grow in the same path. I'm rooting for everyone in the education field, because when you're successful, we're all successful in it. So I very much, and I know a lot of people have heard me say it, it's just, we've got to get into this collaboration over competition mindset, because we're all in this profession together. And when something bad happens, it reflects on all of us. When something great happens, it reflects on all of us. So why aren't we cheering for each other? And part of that is I'm going to tell you all of your positives. I want you to tell me all of my positives. And we just start doing that more, then the negative self-talk and our inner critic is going to get hushed, because all of this other positivity is coming into us from all different directions.
Wow. we understand why, you are who you are. So Jessica, before we let you go, because we know you are booked and busy in these streets, couple of questions. I know, I surfaced that you have a new book coming out. Could you give us a little teaser, possibly?
So it is looking at, I think the best synopsis would be, it's looking at how school leaders can develop a school culture that makes people want to be at their school and stay at their school and grow at their school. So in this time where we're in a unique situation, and even if it wasn't a time where we have fewer and fewer applicants coming into the profession, but you have to consider, if I want people to come work at my school, and not just work at my school, but want to come to work and want to be invested and really be the best version of themselves at my school, what am I doing to make that happen? So when you have all these options of schools that you could go work at, leaders you could work for, what am I doing to make sure that you want to choose my school or choose to work for me?
All right. Crystal, what's going on for you?
I'm having lots of aha moments for myself. I feel like this was a talk that I needed for today. So thank you, Jessica. Unknowingly, like, you have given me the boost that I needed today after, just where I was feeling kind of overwhelmed yesterday, and good stuff, not bad. But I'm like, and there were some things I was kind of beating myself up for. And so I feel like this was a therapy session for me, honestly. And just thank you so much. And I'm just so proud to know you and to be connected with you through this program. And thank you for being you and for all the amazing work that you do to support educators.
I agree. How can folks find you?
I'm on Twitter at Holloway Reader and Instagram as well. So you may see lots of pictures of books, but if you have great books, suggestions, send them my way. My husband is trying to keep me in check on, once the bookshelves are full, we have to pause and then work through them. But he is very much, I see your books there.
Over there and there.
He very much is supportive of my passion for reading. So book suggestions welcome. But Twitter at Holloway Reader, Instagram as well. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I hope to connect with more educators, and more than anything, connect so I can cheer you on as you go on in your journey as an educator.
All right, SEL and EDU family, that we have heard from Jessica Holloway. Love it. This is one for the record books. I'm just saying, one for the record books. So you better check her out. And you're going to have some really great books. I mean, just a whole host of things. I'm rambling. So anyway, I hope for each of you that we reach you real dear. Like we're holding you today. Hold on tight. Someone you hold dear. And allow today and tomorrow to be marked by joy, peace, wholeness, and light. We love you. We will see you or hear from you again soon. Y'all take care.